Welcome to Newfield. We're going to go look at how we go from a raw material to a finished product, and we're going to look at maple syrup. So we're here at this place called Hilltop Boilers, where they go and make maple syrup. So we're going to follow the process going from a raw material of sap all the way to the finished product, and then eventually to post-production, and so we can see what it looks like when you go eat it. The first step in the process is you got to find some maple trees. Once you've found the maple trees, you have to tap them. Let me show you what that looks like. In late winter, usually around February, you drill a hole into the maple tree and you insert a tap. And that is, you see where it's, and then you hang a bucket off there, and then on a warm spring day, when it freezes at night and it thaws during the day, currently it's about 50 degrees, the sap goes from the ground and brings sugar from the roots up to the tree, and we just tap and draw off just a little bit, like 1/10 of a 10% of the sap going up a tree. Just drop off a little bit of sap and let it drip off into this bucket and collect inside the bucket. As you can see, you can either hang buckets or pipelines. In this case, we happen to have pipelines, and you follow the pipelines and they eventually go all the way down to one big bucket. And as you can see, we have the big bucket, we hook up a hose, and we basically suck all the sap right out of the bucket and put it in a big holding tank in the back of the truck. Then we can bring that from there, we can bring it all the way to the sugar shack. We'll show you that in a few moments. So you go around and you gather and empty out the buckets into a carrying bucket. And from there, you'll carry it down the hill, eventually down to the truck. After gathering the sap, the raw material, they bring it to be stored in the next set of containers, and from there it will start getting processed in the sugar house.
Good, how are you? Maple sap comes into this tank here and it's held. There's a pump down there that's going to pump it into the evaporator. And it goes into the back of the evaporator. And it comes into this whole top section first, which is heated by steam. There's a pipe up there where some of the water boils off from the top section. Some of it actually condenses in the top section and goes out as hot water. As it's boiled off from there, it's coming down into this whole bottom section evaporator, which is heated by the wood fire. A massive wood fire underneath this with a blower that blows heat through it. The back pan here has flues in it, and flues increase the surface area greatly of the pan. And so the fire is actually going through those flues. The sap is about 9 to 10 inches deep in that back pan, boiling away very hard, and the steam from that sap is what we talked about heating this top pan up there. So that's all a sealed system. In this bottom one, we're using that steam to heat a whole other level. From the back pan, it then comes into these front pans. These are called syrup pans. It weaves through the different channels in them, and as it's weaving forward, the sugar gets more and more concentrated as it gets to the front. These pans are totally flat on bottom because as the syrup is getting closer to full concentration, we don't want it to boil quite as hard as it was in these back two pans here. So yes, there's still fire underneath it, but the boil is not quite as great. As we get to the front here, we have a valve over here that draws off the syrup, and that's controlled by a little computer in the wall over the other by the window. What's happening there is the syrup gets more and more concentrated. The temperature of it increases to about 219.5 to 220, depending on atmospheric pressure. And then the syrup is drawn off into the bucket. From there, the syrup goes into another room where we've actually filtered the syrup its final time and put it into the jugs.
This is what it looks like inside the evaporator. They're boiling the sap at 216 to 220 degrees, and they're trying to boil off the water and get all the solids back. So once the syrup is finished, it automatically comes off and flows out into a bucket, and from there they're going to process it into a finished product. They're going to do post-production next.
So when the syrup comes off the evaporator, start going into the bucket out there. Now we bring the buckets of syrup in here and we store them in this tank. This tank has propane heaters underneath it to keep it warm. And this is where we are going to feed the filter press from. This here is what's called a filter press. And the hoses on this hitch up to the hoses on this tank. The syrup goes through here, and it goes through a series of filters. So this is the filter press here, and these are the filter papers. What we're doing is we're pressing the syrup through those papers to purify a couple different things out of it. One is any sediment that's in it. The second one are minerals that's actually in the syrup naturally from the tree that will settle out to make the syrup look like it's dirty. So we filter press the syrup there, and that filtered syrup is going to go up here into this bigger tank here. And once again, we're keeping that warm with the propane underneath it too. From there, we're ready to jug. So you can see a little bit of syrup in the line here. There's not much syrup in here right now. But once this is full, we bring it, we put our jug in here, and this seals over the top of the jug, and then the syrup is filled into the jug. Once the jug is full, from there, we're going to put a cap on the jug. The caps have an aluminum seal to them. And so what we have to do is we use actually electromagnetism, and we put it on top of it. And what that's going to do in about 2.5 seconds, it's going to send electricity through the top of that cap and get it so hot to about 1400 degrees that the aluminum melts right to the top of the jug. Once we take this off, it takes 4 or 5 seconds for that cap to cool, and the cap is sealed. Good. We also have to grade the syrup in here, and what we're doing to grade it is we take a sample bottle that's empty, we put a little bit of the syrup in it that we've already filter pressed, and we're comparing it to different grades of syrup. And what we're doing is we're finding which one is closest to but not darker than. So in this case, this one sample here that we drew off is right between the amber and the dark. It's slightly darker than the amber, lighter than the dark, so we actually call it a dark amber syrup. So we're using that measurement of light transmitted through it to grade the syrup.
Once you're done processing the maple syrup, you need to do what's called post-processing. And that is to jug it and then get it ready for sale. And as you can see, we have a lot of award-winning syrup for sale.